Hello there, welcome to my sewing room for #Friday Sews. This week I'm going to be talking about the Made It Hug Hoodie. Yes, that pattern that features a lot in channels and you can't get it anymore. I have finally worked out how to do it from a normal sweatshirt pattern with a hemband. So I've wanted to do it for a couple of years and I've done it, and I'm really pleased to share it with you. It's here. Also, I made something for my grandson this week, didn't read the dimensions of it properly, and it's turned out different to what I thought, so that will be a bit of fun. And of course the normal chatter, I've got lots of bits and bobs to show you, so I'm really glad you're here. Now I'm going to start off with the Hug Hoodie, but I want to give you a bit of background behind it actually. Now, this pattern sadly is no longer available, and there's no way that I would have done what I did and tell you about it if I knew you could get hold of the pattern. I just wouldn't do that. Anyway, a few years ago now, I went to a social that was run by Adam, the lovely Adam Sews, and I met there Clare from Stitch Hem Sew. Still does the channel, she's still on YouTube, I'll link her down below. Now, I'd never met her before, but I think she was either wearing or she was working on this sweatshirt pattern, which I fell in love with a crisscross bottom. And she saw me looking at it, and I was kind of trying to work out how to do it. And she said, "Don't be silly, Carole, I'll just send you the pattern." And I went, no, I want to work out how to do it. But she didn't. She very kindly sent me the pattern. Otherwise, I wouldn't have it. So that's how I actually got the pattern. But it has eaten away at me for a couple of years now as to how it is constructed. Now, if you've watched my channel for a long time, if you know me, even if you don't know me, I will explain that I love to know how things work. I like to see things and I like to copy them and I like to work it out. So the whole time I've been making the Hug Hoodie for myself, it's been bothering me that I can't work out how to do that bottom cross bit. But I finally did this week. Now, in a way, that will help anybody that wants to make it themselves, that have seen it, can't get the pattern. Now, I know there are a couple of copies out there now. I mean, I've talked about them on my channel before. There's a New Look top, much shorter, but it's not quite the same. And I think there's another one that was a bit longer. But I knew I had this pattern, the Simplicity 8529, which I have sewn so much recently. I knew that was a basic sweatshirt pattern with a big thick hemband that had a similar fit to the Hug Hoodie. So that was the one that I was going to alter. I haven't, although I got the Made It Hug Hoodie pattern, I haven't got a picture of it. So I might try and find one if I can. But the version I've made on this one, Simplicity 8529, is the bottom one with the hemband, the round neck. Now, I think you could do this with any sort of sweatshirt jumper pattern that's kind of shorter, or you could shorten it yourself. Now, I did take some video along the way about how I copied this, but I know that's not going to be of interest to a lot of you. So, something a bit different. I'm obviously going to talk about this generally, but right at the end of the video, after the thank you, after the goodbye, after the photos, I will put in that bit of filming of how I actually did it, and you'll see me trying to work it out myself. But I will put that right at the end. Now, I always try and put chapters in the description box down below, so you could jump to that if you wanted, and I won't be offended. Or you could leave it out, it's up to you. But I made it, and I am so pleased. Now, this was a tricky fabric for me. It's a fabric I bought from Minerva, and I actually didn't know what to do with it because it's not great for my skin tone, this peach. Now, I went on to the Minerva website, and there's always blog posts, isn't there, of what people have made with it. Jarrah sweater, next person, Jarrah sweater, next person, Jarrah sweater. Honestly, so many people seem to make the same things. And I knew I wanted to make a sweatshirt from it, but I needed more ideas than that. So hence I used it for this. I did see one lady had made, I think, the Jarrah sweater, and she put a navy hem neckband and cuffs. So I copied that because I knew that is a better colour against me than the peach. So that is why it has a contrasting band. But what I didn't do, it would have been way too heavy if I'd have done it here as well. So I'm really pleased with this. I didn't construct it quite the same, as you'll see if you do watch the end of the video, but it definitely works. You've got that crisscross detail. This is a separate flap here, and you can see it goes over, tucks into side seam there. Of course, I'll put my normal modelling, which had to be inside because it was dark. I'm really pleased with it. I absolutely love this, and I know this probably would work better with a different pattern because it makes it kind of off, but just makes it different. And because I'd sewn this so many times this year, I just wanted it to be different. So I've cracked it. I know, even though I have the pattern, I know how I can get round and turn another pattern into that Hug Hoodie. So I hope it will help somebody else out, but I got satisfaction from working it out because, as I said, I've wanted to do that for a long time. I'm wearing today, I think, Simplicity 9385, just one of the versions here with the cuff. This was in a horrible cheap knitted fabric, but actually I dig it out every year. I think I probably said exactly the same last year when I wore it, that it was a horrible cheap fabric, but it's quite wintry and it certainly has been chilly. I must also say, I forgot to in the headlines, that I did something really exciting this week. I went and got something, but I'll share that at the end. But yeah, big change for the sewing room, so I'll tell you that at the end. So right, next thing, I need to tell you about something I made for my grandson this week. I wasn't intending on making it. I was going to make my Christmas dress, which I need for a couple of weeks, out of this fabric, but actually the pattern I wanted to use, I didn't have anywhere near as enough. Most of my dress patterns I make are straight, but this had a bit more fullness to it, so I couldn't get it out of what I would normally get it out of, 2 meters. So had to wait for some more to come, so I thought I'd fill in my time by making up that dragon. This was a pattern I got free from Sewing Magazine quite a few months ago now, and I bought all the fleece there and then, but I was being lazy and I didn't get round to making it. My first hurdle was the fact that it came with a pattern, but I didn't realise I'd have to trace the pieces off, so I was being super lazy there. And then I put it away and then I get back out again. But yeah, this is the dragon. Now, when I was cutting it out, yeah, the pieces are big. This was a body piece, but I didn't really think about how big this dragon was going to be. I will just say, I'm a visual learner, I think that's how they would describe it now. And another of the hurdles with this was when I got the instructions out, they are all written. Everything is written. There's no pictures along the way. So actually this was really good for my brain. As you can see, I've been marking it off with heat erasable pen to do the bits. But yeah, not one picture or diagram. So you'd be reading and I'd have to reread because I've never made anything like this before. So yeah, that was fun. But yeah, I knew I had all the fleece, mountains of fleece, so I thought I'd get round to doing it. And it is his birthday a week before Christmas, so I just wanted to make him something special. So did all this, got it together. I can see it out the corner of my eyes, and I made the dragon. Now it says large plush pal, so I thought, yeah, okay, that pattern piece there, yeah, it's going to be big, but I forgot it's 3-dimensional, so it's going to be stuffed. So let me get for you George the dragon. So here he comes. The head, the wings, the body, the tail. Okay, so I might need to stand up here to This thing is enormous, okay? He's a giant. He is so much bigger than I anticipated. I mean, he's great, and oh my word, my grandson is absolutely going to love this. But it's got, look, I like the way that seam creates kind of a smile on his face. As I say, I've never done anything like this before, so it was quite a challenge for me. I managed to get some really nice kind of sparkly eyes, but actually I haven't put safety eyes on something for a long time. So I spent hours on YouTube trying to work out how you can clamp those plastic bits at the back to make them safety eyes. But so this is George. Yeah, learn to read the dimensions, Carole, because I think it did say something like 44 inches. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, you're big, aren't you? It said here, the pattern, you can get this on Etsy and eBay. Yeah, so people are obviously selling it, so if anybody's interested. But it said skill level was adventurous beginner. Yeah, this was tricky. It was fiddly, it was tricky, but I did really enjoy doing it. The hardest part actually probably was sewing. This head is separate, so it was hand sewing this at the end. I would say that's probably the hardest bit. Yeah, but yeah. So this is George, and George will be spending time with my grandson. Yeah, I'm having a hard job hiding at the moment for him, but I love him. But do you know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping my other grandson doesn't ask me to make one for him, because I really don't know if I can go through all that again. Yeah, you took a lot of my time this week, didn't you? You know, I keep making the box pouches. I made another one this week because I found yet another way to do it. Now, I kind of like this way. Every time I do it a different way with the same dimensions, it comes out a different size. But this is the latest one I made. Now, how this person did it, and I will link the tutorial down below. I didn't copy the dimensions because I'd already tried it before. But how they do it, the inside is almost French seamed. So you know me, I hate binding anything. So I've done it different ways now, where you sew, it's kind of fiddly, then you sew them together, and then, oh, I've done it lots of different ways. But this way, I kind of liked. So yeah, you would turn it inside out, you would do a seam here, trim the seam, and then turn it into a French seam. And actually, as you can see, it makes it really neat inside. That means that you don't have the closing of the gap there, so you don't have to bag it out. So that makes it neater inside, and it does make it really sturdy. This time I didn't quilt it. It's got fusible facing, and it's got some stiff interfacing on the lining. But yeah, you can see that kind of, it's almost like a double seam then, as it's making it twice as strong. You can see how it will stand up. So again, not bad. The only thing I would think, because it's double seam, you're going to need to make it wider if you want a longer one, because obviously it's using up twice as much fabric, isn't it? But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with this. And at the end of the day, when you give a box pouch to someone, they don't know the dimensions it was meant to be. They're just happy to receive something, and then they just think, what can I put in it? So yeah, I still haven't decided which is my favourite way, but I think that for me, the inside is neater, the outside is neater. I'm kind of leaning towards that one. Boring job of the week this week was altering a sweatshirt top for my daughter. So she gets lots of embroidered tops, but you know they always do it on these kind of cheap hoodies, don't you, and cheap t-shirts. Well, this hoodie she showed me was way too long. I think I took a photo of her in it, and it had a knitted band across the bottom, but it was really tight, and it sort of brought it in. It was horrid. But anyway, so she wanted me to shorten it and then put slits in it. So I did, and also the pocket was on skewiff. I hope that translates across the countries. yeah, I took the pocket off and straightened that up for a start, but as you can see there's a bit of a line where it was, but I had to bring it up, and she wanted side splits. Now the seam allowance was negligible on these, so I didn't have much to play with, but what I did was cut up the cuff and used it to put kind of facings inside there. And I did that thing with a split. I don't like splits where they're like that. I like it where they slightly overlap. So you sort of you tuck one facing under, but you bring one facing out, if you know what I mean. So that extends beyond there and that way, and then you sew it across the top, and then it sort of looks like that. I think that looks a bit nicer. So yeah, I was proud of myself for using what I had left there. Obviously I haven't given it to her yet, but much shorter, and then I cover stitch the bottom, so much more wearable now. But yeah, you realise how well we actually do make things as sewers, don't you, when you actually get to grips with something like this, which was not made well at all. So exciting news for me this week. I decided to bite the bullet and go and upgrade my embroidery machine. The good thing about the embroidery machine for me is the fact that I have used the money that I get from my channel. Now, I'm not in this for a business at all. I just love having sewing friends to talk to. That's why I don't promote anything on this channel. I haven't got a Ko-fi account or anything. It's not a business for me. It's just a way I connect to other sewists around the world. So, but I do advertise. I do have the adverts on my channel, but that money I've been putting aside to upgrade my machine. So it's almost like a Christmas present to myself. But yeah, that it just makes it a bit more special, doesn't it? Now I am really excited about this. I've picked it up, but it's actually just still in the box because I haven't got time to work it out. I've got a blank space over there where it's going to go. Now, I absolutely loved my embroidery machine. I bought it 2.5 years ago. I would still recommend it for any beginner. And it was quite a fairly cheap machine. I was probably the base level machine, but it really got me used to embroidery. It also made me realise, because it's something that you don't know whether you're going to do or not, isn't it, at the end of the day? But I really did love it. But in the end, it frustrated me. And I know I've talked about it a lot, but it only had a 4x4 hoop. That was its biggest. You could get a smaller one, but so the crunch for me was, I think about a year ago, I did this t-shirt, a yoga t-shirt, and it ended up being yoga, because there's no way that I could do 2 letters. I could do 2 letters and 2 letters, but it was so impossible to do the spacing. And I really wanted to be able to put stuff across a t-shirt. I've done lots of little designs. I just wanted something bigger. And it's funny because when I went into the machine shop, he was saying, so why do you want to change? He says, is it the hoop size? And I said, yeah. He said, everybody says about that machine, but I still would recommend that machine without a doubt. It was also a really good sewing machine, so it was double. So I have got an unboxing of my original machine and talking about my original machine, and that's going to stay on my channel. But I will do kind of a, not unboxing because I would have probably got it out by then, but sort of I'm going to put a video out next week probably about my new machine. Maybe test it out. He assures me that it's the same make, it's a brother, that I will just be able to use it and everything will be familiar. So that's what we want, isn't it? I don't want to learn anything new. So exciting. Now that meant I had to go to Salisbury, which is in Wiltshire, which has a cathedral, and it was a beautiful blue sky day. So I did take some pictures for you, and I will put those in the photos at the end. But yeah, look out next week for my embroidery machine, and finally I will be able to do some decent size designs. Thank you so much for all the love that I received on my Lutterlow video this week. Now I know Lutterlow isn't for everybody, so I'm quite aware of that, but a lot of people do have the system, and you're very much on your own when you have the system because you don't see a lot of designs all made up garments from it, unless you're on the Facebook site. So I do hope you enjoyed that video. I got what I wanted in the end, which was a classic style dress. And although the fabric has had its issues and maybe not perfect on me, I've now got that pattern all made up and I know fits me. So when the summer comes and I want a similar dress, then I can use it. But thank you everybody that watched and liked that video this week. Okay, so on to another week, and we're into December next week. Oh, I should say, I hope everybody had a lovely Thanksgiving in America yesterday. It's Black Friday for you today, isn't it? If you're watching this, as it were, live. So I've got the Christmas dress to do because that extra fabric has now come. I can't really decide what pattern to use, but I definitely want it to be a fuller pattern rather than straight. So yeah, I've got the fabric for that. I want to make a book pillow as well. I made one for my grandsons last year. I want to make one for my granddaughter. Still got some gifts to do. You know, we just keep finding these jobs, don't we? And of course I will be probably, if I have time, playing with my new embroidery machine. So we're away for a couple of days, but we're back at the end of the weekend. So we're going to see the Santa train, or Father Christmas as I call it, Father Christmas train, with the boys on Sunday. So that's going to be brilliant. So I'm sure I'll put a couple of photos in of that for next week. Thank you so much for joining me, and I love it. You know, when I say I rattle on, and I'm really sorry, I love it when you say that I'm allowed to rattle on. That's fine. It makes me really happy. Thank you so much again. Have a wonderful weekend and week ahead, and I will see you shortly. Goodbye for now. Obviously the two tops are very different shapes because the Hug Hoodie is raglan, but I'm going to ignore that for now, and I've just sort of levelled where the necks are. So you can see this is the scoop. So that is what you would have cut the front, and then you would have cut a second piece for this. Now I'm not going to do that. Luckily they've drawn a centre line here. So I'm going to follow that, scoop up, and then scoop back down again. And how I'm going to do that is fold this piece in half and then just follow that and cut that line. Now, obviously, if you haven't got this, all you need to do is about 3 inches, but it could be personal taste. So you would just scoop up to there. So I'll fold it and I'll show you what I'm going to do. So I've folded the fabric in half, I folded the pattern in half, and actually I was wrong, it's about 2.5 inches. So if you were doing this yourself, you would just do a curve, a soft curve up to 2.5 inches on here. I'm not going to cheat and use the pattern, so it wouldn't be much point in me doing that, would you? So I've gone and got my French curve, just I guess a standard French curve, but all it is the very bottom of it. So if you have a French curve like this, it is just the bottom portion of it, not the sort of curved part of it up there. It is just the very bottom. So I'm not going to use this pattern piece. I'm going to line that up with where I put a pin there, and that should be where I cut. So this is what we have after I cut that bit, and I promise I used the mark, I didn't use the pattern. Now, of course, in the other pattern, this would have been a separate bit, and that would have made it much easier to put the hemband on. I'm hoping that I can find a way to neaten it off and it'll look just the same. But for now, I'm just going to put the whole thing together and then I'll come back to you when I do the hemband. After a lot of deliberation and filling around, what have I done so far? Sewn at the top as normal. I didn't sew all the way down on the sides. Well, I will admit I did in the beginning and then I unpicked them realising I probably couldn't. So I've left the sides open just below the armholes. And then I've spent a long time trying to work out how to do this bit. The Hug Hoodie pattern had this portion here as a separate piece. So that meant that you could join these two bits together a lot easier. Now, I didn't want to chop this any shorter because I didn't want this getting any shorter at the top. So in hindsight, yes, that's the best way to do it, but I think I can work out how to avoid that. So I have a piece. So it's all pinned on at the moment, but you have the center point here. So I have this shorter piece marked, pinned all the way up, and that's the center point. So it goes just beyond sort of seam allowance, and that will sew into there, and then we'll eventually go into the side seam. And I have another longer piece. So this is actually the normal measurement of the hemband, so I haven't altered that. But this one I did make slightly longer because obviously we're going up on the angle, so it's got to be longer than the original piece. So I have cut kind of a few of these and made them longer. So you would do that with your normal hemband piece. You wouldn't cut it to that. Well, you can do the back, but you wouldn't do it to the front. You just cut it longer and then you can play around with it. So that is going to be going along, and I kind of worked out where it would look nice. So I think if you can see there, the seam line there, when it folds down, you've got 2 inches there. You can see that 2 inches there where you've got the gap where it crosses over. So when that folds down over there and that's sewn and folded, yes, we have this awkward bit. And no matter how I trimmed it, the only way I can think of doing it is when I have sewn those 2 pieces, I've overlocked it, because what I'm going to do is hand sew those 2 pieces together, which isn't perfect, but it is the only way I can think of doing it. And actually, you won't see it. Look, as you can see, it'll tuck under there nicely. And if you just hand sew it to one side of the hemband, I think it should work. So I've sewn on the lower piece. I'm not going to neaten it yet. I'm going to sort that out later. And obviously we fold it down, press it down before we sew the upper piece, because then that's going to go over the top. And I'm doing it along the seam allowance, so the very top of this will be under the seam. What we don't want to do is that corner to poke out here. So I'll now sew the top line. Let's have a look at the finished result. This is my other Hug Hoodie. So as you can see, because this is a separate piece, all this bit goes nicely into the seam when you're putting that bit on there. But still looks the same, still got the join there, and that's the original pattern. Ta-da! You have my version. So this is all finished, and I have to say it's worked out exactly as I wanted. It looks really nice. As you can see, you've got this piece here. I have lightly overcasted that to there, so you cannot, that's one unit and you can't see it from here, obviously, because I've just sewn it to the underlayer. So that works. The side seams match up quite nicely. I made sure that that was the same width, so all the seams matched up. Same the other side. Obviously you've got the seam endings on the sides here, which I hate, but again I've just done a couple of little hand stitches so that doesn't pop out. But I have to say, I am really pleased. It is pretty much identical.